What are we supposed to be talking about anyway? Is that
you want to do like a sort of a general commentary, right?
Yeah, let's talk about the summer. I don't know if you saw any summer movies or anything.
I saw Captain America.
Yeah, I know, because I was there.
We were there together.
Mark was there too.
That's right. What else? Oh, I saw Godzilla.
Oh, you did? I didn't see Godzilla.
It was really cool.
Really?
I was like, I went with Nick, and he wanted to see Godzilla, and I was like, do I really want to spend money to see, some giant lizard trance around and destroy a bunch of shit? It seems like a waste of time.
Yeah.
But it was a matinee, so it was $3. I went in, and it was awesome.
Really?
Yeah, completely blew my mind. At one point, I mean, it's Godzilla versus another two monsters, and they kind of look like moth sort of things. But
Yeah.
He opens up one's mouth and like shoots a laser beam down into it, and there was no storyline. I mean, basically, but I just that blew my mind. It was awesome. Very cool.
Yeah, I don't know. I heard like it got a little boring in the middle, and then it like kicks ass near the end.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. In the middle, there's a lot of travel and like watching Godzilla on a radar and that sort of thing.
Yeah. So during the summer months, usually it's my time to get busy with the movies. So I saw Captain America 2, Amazing Spider-Man 2, X-Men 17.
How was that? Go on, wait, finish it.
Yeah. What else did I see? I saw Edge of Tomorrow. And I think I might plan on seeing How to Train Your Dragon 2 or something.
The first
else.
one was fantastic. So,
yeah.
That's a lot of movies.
Yeah. That's my time of year. I did the same thing in 2013. I went and saw a whole bunch of movies, and I regretted that because I didn't like. Oh, they were all right, but it was. I had a lot of free time because that's when I finished Cataclysm Part 2.
Yeah.
And I couldn't see that many movies in 2012 because I was working on Cataclysm Part 1. So I'm just like, hey, I got a summer class, but it's just one class, and I got all this other free time. I'm gonna go see a bunch of movies.
Sure.
And I saw Into Darkness, Iron Man 3, Man of Steel, Elysium, and I think that's it. And there was just generally a lot of destruction that year. A lot of destruction in films.
Huh.
I'd say Iron Man 3 had it more downplayed, and out of all of those, I think I enjoyed Iron Man 3 the most. It seemed to have a lot more lightheartedness to it. It was fun. It didn't leave me with a headache, and it didn't leave me upset. I know it upset a lot of people because of the Mandarin twist. Do you know about the Mandarin twist?
No, I don't know about the Mandarin twist.
Okay, it's been like a year, kids. If you haven't watched it, then too bad I'm about to spoil it. The Mandarin turns out to be like an actor, right?
Oh my god.
Yeah, he's playing a part.
Well, I mean, everyone in that.
Yeah, everyone's
an actor, right?
I hate to break it to you, kids. Everyone's an actor, and Robert Downey Jr. isn't really that tall. I'm sorry.
Oh no.
There's an image of him just like standing on like a plank of like not even a plank of wood, like a wooden like beam on the set of Iron Man 3 next to what's her face? I forget her name.
Scarlett Johansson.
Not Scarlett Johansson. It was not Emily Blunt. Not Emily Blunt. God, it's gonna drive me crazy.
You sound like Harry Potter with the sorting hat.
Yeah.
Not Emily Blunt. Not Emily Blunt.
She reminds me of Emily Blunt for some reason. I don't know. I think it's because they're both British, and they both have sort of masculine features, but it works for them.
Huh. Yeah, I have no idea. I
Anyway,
can IMDb it if you want.
Yeah, go ahead. It's really sad. And when you actually see said pictures of Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr. He's always wearing these lifts so he can like stand with the rest of the cast and not look weird next to them. And when I got to I was expecting the twist. What it was, I was expecting it, and when I got to it, it floored me. I'm just like, wait, what? I didn't go, wait, what? I just sunk into my seat a little bit. I'm just like, huh, okay.
Which is the more polite thing to do in a movie.
Yeah.
Right?
I was thinking, okay, let's see where this goes.
Sure.
Okay, this is what everyone's been complaining about. I can kind of see why they're upset, but I don't know. Let's just see where this goes.
Yeah.
And yeah, so he's just an actor the whole time, and the real Mandarin is Guy Pearce, and he has all these dragon tattoos, so I'm guessing that's a reference to whoever the fuck that character is.
So why hire an actor? What's the point?
Misdirection. Yeah, I think something like that. I don't remember.
Okay.
But I generally like the writer and director of that movie, Shane Black. I like his other stuff too. It sort of has that same feel. Yeah, if you ever a movie I can recommend for you is Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. I really like that movie.
Kiss Kiss Bang Bang sounds like a musical. Is it a musical?
No, it's not a musical. Thank God. Yeah, but it also takes place during Christmas. It's also starring Robert Downey Jr. So, yeah.
Is that like one of those actor-director couples?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's starting to be. Yeah.
Oh.
Because you got Leonardo DiCaprio and Martin Scorsese.
Sure.
And you got I'm already losing it. I had this whole list. Oh my god.
Johnny Depp and
Tim Burton. Yeah. Christopher Nolan and Mike O'Kane and Kristen Bell. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So. Yeah. Yeah, I liked the movie. It was fun. And that airplane scene, like when all the people are getting sucked out of Air Force One. Also, a lot of movies involving Air Force One getting destroyed. That was like, the superhero moment. Like, he has to save all these people, and it's like kind of nerve-wracking because it's like the suit's like low on power, and that's like the big part of the story. This whole place is destroyed. He only has access to one suit, and it's failing in power. So he has to make do with what he can. Right. So it's just like Tony Stark, the super genius and everything, and he has to, fight his way out of situations without the suit.
Right.
And that's interesting. A lot of fun things happen there.
Yeah, it's cool to see someone fight in an Iron Man suit. It's even cooler to see it stripped away. And
yeah. He has to invent all these things, like just in a garage, and just sort of, it's pretty fun to watch.
Cool.
Oh yeah.
Is it Rebecca Hall, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay.
Rebecca Hall. Yeah, he has to look tall next to Rebecca Hall.
That's kind of sad. See, I'm a short guy, and I feel like short guys need to be better represented in film.
You guys are.
Why can't there be a short... No, we got George Costanza. There needs to be a short superhero, besides Peter Parker, because, he doesn't count.
I don't think Peter Parker is short, though.
No?
Andrew Garfield's pretty tall.
Oh, I'm thinking of Tobey Maguire.
Yeah.
Or is he...
I don't know how tall.
Now they're gonna tall Spider-Man.
All superheroes are around 6 feet, and they all have blue eyes and black hair.
Right.
No, wait, that's DC. I'm sorry, because Superman does.
Batman.
Yeah. Wonder Woman. Like I looked up on the DC Wikia, like how many DC superheroes has this specific feature, and you can filter for that specific feature. That's just autism like I haven't seen before. And all these superheroes come up. I'm just like, what the fuck? I guess that's aesthetically pleasing to the eye.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I have one of those features. 3 guesses which one it is.
You
Blue eyes.
Pop up like a survey?
No. It's the colorless hair.
Yeah. I wonder why that particular set of features.
It might be biology or something. I don't know. Like it's sexually selective at this point in time. I don't know because
black hair
and blue eyes.
Because blue eyes aren't. Oh, they're sexually selective.
Yeah. Anyway, Iron Man 3. Yeah, it was fun. What else did I see that year? What did I say? Star Trek. I could talk for hours about how much I did not like Into Darkness. I left it disappointed. Because it felt like a retread of not only other Star Trek films, but of the last Star Trek film that I saw.
Really?
Yeah, of the first movie that it is a sequel of. Like, even just the same shots are reused. Similar set pieces, but in like a different setting.
Well, I mean, you've got the same setting, right? It takes place on the...
Yeah, they take like the space jump that they do in the first movie.
Yeah. When
they fly onto that machine that's making drilling a hole into Vulcan.
Yeah.
They have the space jump. They do the same thing in the second movie where they space jump from the Enterprise to what I like to call the Dark Enterprise or the Nega Enterprise or Enterprise Supreme gentlemanship. I don't know. It's that was a plot twist, apparently. One of the plot twists. The big thing that they're building in secret is a giant, evil-looking, all-black enterprise. It has this connection to what's been stated earlier in the movie. And they actually straight up show you the Enterprise, but it's like a little model toy that the camera just sort of pans over while RoboCop is talking to Chris Pine and that guy from Heroes. So you see, like, space shuttle. Oh my god. I think the guinea pigs are trying to escape.
Yeah, they got a stomachache.
Oh.
Not really.
Oh. You got Enterprise, a space shuttle. Yeah. They actually named a space shuttle the Enterprise. You got this weird looking ship. That ship that was in First Contact, another Star Trek movie. And then you have the Enterprise that was in Star Trek Enterprise, that show that was on from like 2001 to 2005. And then you got the 2009 Enterprise, and then you got this weird looking Enterprise. I'm like, what the heck is that? Whatever. And then it shows up. Oh my god, the music on that part is amazing. I love the music on that part.
Who does the music?
Michael Giacchino. I think that's how you pronounce his name.
The last name like Giacchino, you have to become a great composer.
Yeah, he's Italian. Something about Italian composers, bro. I don't know, man. He did the music for like The Incredibles and like 2 of the Mission Impossible movies. And he has that sort of style, right? That goes with spy movies or callbacks to the past, like 1960s sort of minimalist look to everything. He's good at that. He's a great jazz player too. He reminds me a lot of John Williams because he's also a great jazz player, and their sounds are very similar. But I can still tell them apart because I've been listening to their music for so long. So there was this whole thing before the movie came out whether Benedict Cumberbatch was whatever his name is was actually
Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, was actually Khan from The Wrath of Khan or not. And like, what else do you think it's going to be? Because these writers and these producers and the director they have to pick elements from the Star Trek show that is generally in the collective consciousness.
Sure.
And Khan is one of those because that's the most popular Star Trek movie ever. So they have to go there. Klingons are in this, and they don't really look much like Klingons. It's weird. And of course he's Khan. I'm sitting there in the theater and like, they're gonna get to this point. He's either Khan or he's not. I don't know why you think you have me fooled, Mr. Abrams. Okay? It's not, and my response isn't like, oh my god, like most people. It's not even it's sort of just like, that doesn't make any sense. I'm not surprised, I'm not shocked, but that doesn't make any sense.
Sure.
It's like a guinea pig going, my name is Khan. It's like he says it all dramatically and everything. Like, he had no reason to use a different alias. He had no reason at all, only to just like trick, I'm using finger quotes here, the audience and create this faux mystery box. It wasn't there. There was no mystery. Everyone guessed it. Everyone already knew. I knew. I could tell. And it's just... It's not... I feel like this isn't going anywhere. We're just going in circles.
That's ultimately what these movies are going to be, too. These sort of, recreation films.
Yeah.
Because they're not there to produce new material as much as they are just to service fanboys.
It's not even fanboys. They're trying to get the general audience. The fanboys already know everything
and to make money
about it.
But that's the thing. I mean, it's just going to be, endings that aren't going to surprise you and that are going to be easy to guess because you don't want to see something new. You just want to see a callback to what you've seen before.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're going to see with Star Wars too.
That's what I'm afraid. But
it's the same guy, right?
It's not the same writers. It's the same director, but it's not the same writers.
Right.
And I wanted to talk about this before The Amazing Spider-Man 2 came out, but I never got the chance to make this video. The 2 writers for Star Trek Into Darkness and Star Trek 2009, whatever you want to call it, their names are Roberto Orci and Alex Kreutzmann. I do not like them much as writers. I'm not saying I'm better than them. That's irrelevant. But they're not that great. And the worst part about this is you're taking something that isn't that great, that's pretty thin, and you're spreading it over like butter or bread that's too big. I'm trying to reference.
Oh, I got it. The
Fellowship.
Not the Hobbit, Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. So by that I mean, they're writing 2.5-hour films like almost every year, right? They wrote the first Transformers movie. That's an indication of their talent. They wrote the second Transformers movie, but that was during the writer's strike. But they also wrote Star Trek that very same year during the writer's strike. So whatever.
Yeah.
And then they wrote Into Darkness, and they also write for television, right? I think they wrote some episodes of Lost. I'm not sure.
So you tell me these guys are scabs. They go work for blockbusters while all the other writers are striking. Is that the deal?
I think they were on strike. I'm not sure. The first two Transformers movies are so similar in the same sense that the first two Star Trek movies are similar, and they're written by the same person, same people. So I think this is just what they do. They're not great at moving a story forward in terms of a sequel. All these Transformers movies feel the same.
Right.
These Star Trek movies feel the same. They're directed by two different people. I wouldn't say, like, if I had to choose what to watch, I'd watch Star Trek over Transformers without any hesitation.
Sure.
Because it's less offensive. It's more fun, and I can tell what's going on.
Yeah.
The stories are both equally ridiculous, but they're handled differently.
Movies like Transformers, at least, I can't necessarily say this about Star Trek. The audience doesn't go to see it for the plot.
Yeah.
I mean, they go to see it for the same sort of reason you might go to see Godzilla, because, it's giant robots battling and Megan Fox on a motorcycle. You don't necessarily have to be a good writer to pull something like that off. You just, put in a bunch of explosions and hot women and you get your $1 million or whatever,
To me, it really makes all the differences. What really makes a huge difference in these two franchises is the director. Different directors can do different things with the same writers,
right?
Who have the same problems and can sort of lampshade over certain stuff, make the scenes more fun, get a different performance out of the actors, where the other director can just make everything obnoxious and hard to sit through.
So you don't even think it's about the content or the subject matter. You think it literally was J.J. Abrams was able to make, like, if the director of Transformers, I'm not sure who directed Transformers.
Michael Bay.
Oh, right. I did.
That's like actually a whole thing.
If Michael Bay were to direct Star Trek, you think it would be of the same quality as Transformers was?
Yeah, the exact same. Yeah. When he can do his own thing, like Pain and Gain was his own sort of thing. It was based off of a true story, but it was his own thing.
Sorry,
what was that?
My phone.
Is it the guinea pigs again? When he can do his own thing, I've said this before in a commentary or whatever video. When he can do his own thing, he's decent. He's all right. He can get into that Michael Bay mindset a lot better if he's not. At the same time, shitting on a different franchise. It's a little bit more, I guess, offensive with Pain and Gain because these were real people. But with something like Bad Boys 2, it just doesn't fucking matter, because Bad Boys 2 Bad Boys in general doesn't have lore, right? It doesn't have comic books. It doesn't have all this other stuff. It's Bad Boys. We're not expecting much here. Just
right.
Will Smith and Martin Lawrence just blowing shit up, and Gabrielle Union. And I find her attractive not because of political pressure. I genuinely find Gabrielle Union attractive. All right?
She said the same thing about you.
Real? Oh my god.
Yeah, I can set that up.
Oh my god. She's like 40, but she doesn't look 40. Yeah. So essentially, the two writers, they just go into circles. They self-reference over and over and over again. And I'll get on to this. I'll come back to them when I talk about the Amazing Spider-Man 2 because they wrote for it, and I wanted to talk about that before the movie came out.
The same two writers did?
Same two writers.
Interesting.
And that's what I was concerned with because I'm like, oh, they're not writing for Star Wars. What are they? Oh shit. So I was scared.
And it was bad.
We'll get there.
All right, okay.
We'll get there. A lot of lens flares. I didn't actually notice it because I got used to it, but a lot of lens flares.
What's a lens flare?
It's that it's like the light, like a blue line that goes across the screen.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
In the space shots.
Uh-huh.
Because that's supposed to be the sun or some nearby star,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Sure.
the thing about it is, if I had to pick one person to do lens flares in a movie, I'd pick J.J. Abrams because he has like the best lens flare. There's so many variety of lens flares.
Really?
Are they going to be circles? Are they going to be lines? What is it? And like everyone else's lens flare, there's boring blue lines going across the screen. Like Thor 1 had all these boring lens flares, and yeah, I actually like Abrams' lens flares. There's a reason why he's infamous for this, and all the other directors aren't, because he has the best ones, and y'all are just jealous. You can't handle the master.
Master of lens flares.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's an alright title.
Yeah.
You gotta have something.
Yeah. So, one little bit that kind of offended me in the movie, if I could say anything actually personally offended me, was when the Nega Enterprise crashes on Earth. Because in the trailers, they made it look like it was the 1701 Enterprise that crashes, but it was really just the bigger Enterprise, because it's a plot twist that it's not actually the Enterprise, because that's the way we edited the trailer. We took shots of it rising out of the water, and took shots of the Nega Enterprise crashing into the water, and made you think it was the same ship, but it wasn't. Whoa. And when it crashes in San Francisco, it's coming down, and there's Alcatraz prison. You know, the infamous prison in San Francisco?
Sure.
Yeah.
So that's still up and running in the future?
No, it's a relic, just like it is now.
Okay.
And then all this ocean, all this water that it could crash into, and it just like, just destroys Alcatraz. And I cringed during that. I'm just like, oh, no.
What?
Because it's a historical piece there. I've done so much research on Alcatraz. The place always fascinated me, even when I was a kid, and they just destroy it for no reason. All these future buildings that will never exist that you can destroy. All these nameless, faceless people, and you had to destroy Alcatraz.
I think that stuff's so cool, though. I don't know. To go back to Godzilla, I love like that you can like take a city and just like destroy, just mess the whole thing up.
Yeah.
It's really neat to be like, oh, hey, that's my apartment. That was my apartment.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's
it makes the destruction much more relatable. It's cool.
Yeah, that's cool. But they never do any like destruction where we live.
True. Yeah.
There's nothing to destroy here. Yeah. We're like seconds to them. Like after they destroy the big cities and they come for suburban America.
Right.
Yeah.
You see a couple people running down the street maybe, and never anything specific.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they actually don't kill the bad guy in this one.
Send him off into space.
No, they put him back and he's frozen again.
Oh.
And here's my biggest. I don't know if I said this already, but I'll reiterate my point. I feel like this Star Trek movie series is going nowhere. I feel like it's just going in circles. It's referencing and showing stuff that we already have seen before, but slightly different. But that's not what I want. I want new stories. I want new, topics to discuss. And there is some relevancy in the story there. There's some references to Osama bin Laden because Benedict Cumberbatch, he blows up a building that's like a terrorist act. There's just nothing here. When I envisioned like an alternate universe of Star Trek, I want them to take advantage of that. I expect new possibilities to open up. And that's what they essentially advertised in the ending of the first new Star Trek movie. And in my head, and this is just in my head, and I probably shouldn't expect this from the writers, but in my head, I envisioned new possibilities opening up that we haven't seen before, right? And all that stuff that we've come to know from the older Star Trek, television shows and movies to kind of be locked away, right? It's like an adventure game or a role-playing game. When you replay it, certain things are locked off depending on your choices. It's like an alternate timeline. You can't do this anymore. You can't save this person anymore.
Right.
You won't meet this person anymore. This will happen instead. And that's what I kind of envisioned for the next Star Trek movies. And it doesn't seem to be doing that. It's like, nope, all that stuff is still here, just happening sooner. The story. I haven't talked about the story, like the big story.
Oh yeah.
The problem with referencing Wrath of Khan was that the story that they have for Wrath of Khan doesn't really match the characters in Into Darkness. It's crafted only around characters that have been together, working together for decades, right? Because they're older than they were in the TV show. This is their second movie, and Kirk's getting old. You know, he has a son that he hasn't seen in years. He's getting older. No-win scenario. It's crafted around these famous characters in their later years, and the story of friendship. You will always be my friend. You know, that sort of thing doesn't work for characters who've met in like the last movie. They've been working together for like what, a year or so.
Right.
They don't really say, but it hasn't been like decades. You know, and the way they write the character interactions between Spock and Kirk, they would have not been friends at all. They would have just been irritated with each other, and they do seem irritated with each other. It's kind of like the prequels of Star Wars, which scares me. Their interactions, like they're supposed to be friends, they're supposed to be buddies, but they're not. And they want to craft this sort of faux Wrath of Khan story around this, and it just doesn't work for these characters. It doesn't mesh well with it, and that's my problem. I don't know if anyone else had this problem, but that's mine. So that's my beef with Into Darkness. Alice Eve is in there. She's in the movie. That's it. You know, and they have that scene where she's in the bikini. Or not the bikini, she's in her bra. Everything is up on the screen. She's like, look away! And there's like 50 bajillion screenshots of that particular scene all over the internet. No, it was turn around. That's what it was. Turn around! And Kirk's just like looking at her like just,
Yeah, I'm gonna Google that.
That's the look. That's the look he has on his face, like, duh, boobies. I'm Kirk. I like women a lot.
I mean, that's true. That is pretty consistent with his character.
Well,
except every woman, it's never just about the boobs with him.
Yeah.
Every woman, in every episode, he has an intense emotional relationship with.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're right. That face doesn't really capture that.
With the original series, Kirk, you know, you got all these you got all these caricatures of Shatner and Kirk talking like this and everything and all that other shit. And then when you actually watch William Shatner as Kirk in the original series, because I watched a couple of episodes of the first season, I think like 5 or 6 episodes, and at first I couldn't sit through them, but I got a little older and I'm just like, yeah, okay, I'll give this a shot. I'll actually sit down and watch him.
Yeah,
he's a totally different. You know, he's an actual leader. You know, and the way he talks to his crew and everything, like I'd follow this guy. I would love for him to be my captain. He's a great captain. You know, and I think it's been overshadowed by
tropes.
Yeah, and all these, you know, parody versions of him, and parts of the real Kirk are kind of lost. Yeah. Unless you actually watch the series. Yeah. And there was this one episode where they all dressed as Nazis. And it looked way too good on him. Like, it fit really well. I first thought all those images were, like, photoshopped. Because there's, like, people, like, photoshopping people into Nazi uniforms for some reason. And it turned out to be a real episode. I'm just like, oh my god. Kirk is much better in the original series. And you should watch it.
He's a real captain.
Yeah, he's a real captain.
I feel like in a lot of movies these days, we make our heroes into jokes. Yeah. I'm not sure why.
Yeah. Then we have, like, Captain America, and he shows you what the fuck is supposed to be a hero and everything. Right. You feel bad for a cynical approach. Hey everyone, this is darkspidey34. Hope you enjoyed this little podcast thingy that me and Sam are doing. Sam and I are doing. The audio is a little weak. We'll work on that. I just wanted to add this little comment at the end of the video podcast thingy to further reiterate my point about Into Darkness. Now, self-referencing over and over again, well, self-referencing in general, is not bad. That wasn't the point I was making. The point I was making was the way it was done in Into Darkness didn't work for me. And another point which might be brought up is that my criticizing of Roberto Orci and Alex Kurtzman for the referencing could be seen as a bit hypocritical coming from someone like me. And I understand that. But working from comic books is so much more freeing than working from under the shadow of Wrath of Khan, and that's essentially what they've done. They've restricted themselves intentionally to
to remake Wrath of Khan, and they did this, of course, to work from the most popular Star Trek movie. Where my hypocrisy might come in here is whenever I referenced issue 121 and 122 of the Amazing Spider-Man comic book. Those are very famous issues. That is the issue where Gwen Stacy died, 121, and when the Green Goblin, quote, died, unquote, in issue 122, I believe. A good comparison here is that issue 121 and 122 is the Amazing Spider-Man's Wrath of Khan. And how fitting is that comparison when they also wrote for The Amazing Spider-Man 2, which featured a very similar reference as well, written by the same two guys. And how also fitting, I was around the same age as the guy who wrote that very famous story when I made Cataclysm Part 2. And it's like 40 years apart. Almost to the month. It's crazy, I think. 1973, was it? 72. Who cares? But I'm certainly not the first person to do that. These are famous turning points in Spider-Man's life. It's not even just the events of that comic book. It's that specific event, the death of Gwen Stacy and or the death of the Green Goblin. Spoiler alert. And that's what I chose to do for Cataclysm Part 2. I chose to depict the events in 121 and 122. However, a lot of things happen in Cataclysm Part 2 that do not happen in those two comic book issues. I mean, from a span of like 10, 15 minutes, you go from issue 121 to issue 317. I'm sorry, you start out with 317, you go to 121, you go to 320, and then you go to 122. So it goes all over the place. It takes from many sources. One of the sources, my own head, and it puts it all together. And I try to make all this as seamless as possible. However, with Into Darkness, it felt unnatural because they're just remaking a movie, and one doesn't even have to look at. If you call Cataclysm Part 2 or the series in general the right way to reference the source material, you can just look at other stuff that these two guys have written. Like, I don't know, the first Star Trek movie. I didn't bring this up, but the first Star Trek movie is essentially Wrath of Khan. However, it's working from an original character's point of view. A lot of terrible things, well, I wouldn't say a lot of terrible things, but Vulcan is destroyed. That's kind of a big deal. And it takes the concept of Wrath of Khan, which is a popular one, and it's well referenced in popular culture because it's such a famous movie for the franchise at least, and it does some cool things with it. I wouldn't say it outshines it, but it's definitely the strongest Star Trek movie since like the fourth Star Trek movie, or the sixth one, I should say. And that it succeeds. It did what it was trying to do, and it was a competent action movie, and I enjoyed it, and I still enjoyed it. However, these two writers, as I said in the podcast, they never really can move on. They always seem to wallow under the shadow of something popular, and I think because it's safe there, you're protected underneath this all-imposing shadow. But to me, it's almost threatening if I have to work under one single thing's shadow and not allowed to break out a little here and there. But for them, it's safe. I'm not going to say Spider-Man isn't safe for me, because it most certainly is. But I don't know. I do a lot of changes here and there that I don't really think would go so well in the public eye, or at least with hardcore fanboys. Some of the things I change, and that's difficult. That's a difficult choice to make, whether to change things, because it can be creatively stagnating to do the same thing over and over again, and you feel a little guilty for giving people the same thing that they're used to, but they will go, the fanboys, they don't like things that are different all that much. And that is actually kind of understandable, because most people, because all we talk about are things that are generally talked about in the popular, that are generally talked about. Some are blockbusters and everything, but I saw other movies that, like certain movies that were only released in like 4 theaters, which we talk about later. I'll upload that later, but that's fine. A little bit of familiarity and a little bit of something new is fine. It's the execution, and it was executed competently in Star Trek. And Into Darkness, it just wallowed in that same thing, and it doesn't move on. It can use that, blueprint for a jumping off point, and then jump off from there and advance the story and these characters, and probably take them where we've never seen them before. But they think taking these characters to a place we haven't seen them before is basic role reversal, and it's almost surreal watching Kirk do what Spock did in Wrath of Khan, only like the universe shifted itself so that Kirk can fix the warp core. The way Spock fixes the warp core in Wrath of Khan, it's more suited for Spock. It's something that Kirk wouldn't really. It's not something he would be able to do. It's more technical. Whereas in Into Darkness, he has to kick the thing. So it's like Kirk, he punches people. He likes women. Let's have him kick the warp core into working again. That was so. I was sitting in the theater, and I was in awe of what was happening right in front of me. I didn't hate it. I was in awe. I was surprised that they went this far with their referencing. So that would be the wrong way to do it, and that is my point. So you don't have to look at what I've done, and I know some people might do this, but you can just go ahead and look at other things that they have done. In fact, if you go back far enough to, Transformers, it seems like they're working under another movie shadow. That just seems to be their movie career nowadays. With Star Trek, it was Wrath of Khan. With Transformers, it was Transformers the movie. With The Amazing Spider-Man 2, it was Spider-Man 2 and a little bit of Spider-Man 1. And I had Spider-Man 3 come back to my mind. So they seem to be always working under something more popular and or successful than anything they've made. And they don't actually do anything to create that shadow. They don't do anything of their own. They just switch things around. And whenever they write a sequel, it's basically the first movie, only different things. As I said, some of the same shots are used. There really isn't anything that happens that has a really huge impact on the overall universe, or should I say galaxy, like what happened in the first Abrams Star Trek movie. Vulcan is destroyed. Vulcans, a very famous species in science fiction, has become an endangered species in its alternate reality, and it's an alternate reality that cannot be fixed, that will not be fixed. However, it seems to be morphing into, or trying to morph into, the original series canon, which it hardly makes any sense, but they're doing it because, I don't know, doing something new is hard. Yeah, doing something original is hard, difficult. Doing something new is hard and difficult. Breaking out of it is hard and difficult. When they do the whole role reversal thing, they just bring back the character that didn't die in Wrath of Khan. I mean, I know in Search for Spock, they brought Spock back. However, they had a whole adventure, and it wasn't just them bringing him back after one poorly set up explanation. One that doesn't really make much sense, because how can the blood of one species so easily transfer to another and heal it? And what do you do about that blood later? But this is science fiction, and science fiction, I'd say for the most part, is soft science, even borderline science fantasy. However, I'm okay with concepts or ideas that might seem a bit silly, but are implemented correctly. It's the execution that means everything. A person being bit by a spider and gaining spider powers on paper sounds silly, but it was executed competently, and now it's a huge major franchise. You could say that nostalgia really kept it alive, but you can't really say that about every single comic book hero. I mean, who's nostalgic over the Avengers? Nobody. And it was really successful with the general audience. It was executed competently. These ideas, these concepts, that bringing the blood, bringing someone back to life from radiation poisoning, was executed poorly. I'm okay with wonky things. In our fiction, it's the execution. I think that really is the core of escapism. When you're showing fantastically retarded or weird, strange ideas, is executing them properly, and making them entertaining. You got to set up the tone so it doesn't waver all over the place, and taking your audience on a very unintended roller coaster ride. That means that really does mean everything, and that's my problem. This is, of course, nothing new, very poorly thought out, or unpopular, or just forgettable. Sequels just go through the motions of the first movie, but they make it more epic by doing it more epic-er. And these are some of the points I brought up during the podcast when I was talking about Star Trek 1 versus Star Trek 2. Not the first Star Trek 1 and Star Trek 2, the second Star Trek 1 and Star Trek 2, which was really just two Star Trek 2s, not including the other Star Trek 2, Star Trek Nemesis, which was Star Trek 10, which didn't use the numerical values. It was, in its title, it was going for the subtitles, which is, it gets a little confusing to follow once you hit 10 sequels. Oh my. That was an unintended reference to the original series. I apologize for that. My point is that a good sequel takes this world, takes some concepts, even makes up new concepts to explore, and tells a story based around that. Can you imagine watching a TV show where every single episode is just like the first episode? That's why shows that follow a very basic formula that are really boring and forgettable are just kind of like every other episode that came before it. You don't go that episode or the episode where, and just describing it makes you laugh because of how silly or interesting. Well, not laugh if it's interesting, you'd say, oh wow, cool. But if it's like a comedy, just describing the silly and wacky antics that go on between the characters should make you immediately laugh just by thinking about it, because it stays with you. You convey an emotional reaction to what you saw, and that's a pleasant experience. At least that's what my brain tells me, but he tells me a lot of things that I don't know if they're true or not. It just seems to get to these points, but at the sacrifice of the story, not at the service of the story, but doing something that looks cool. And you can say this about the action scenes, but it's just as easily applicable to the references, and that's another reason why it feels unnatural. They're not doing things for the plot. They're doing this so the audience can understand it, so we can go, Wrath of Khan. So it's accessible, so it doesn't do anything new. I don't really know who to blame. Human nature, I might as well, because if I go out on screen and there is actually some giant hairy ass cheek pulling its cheeks apart and defecating onto the camera lens, I can definitely say, now I've seen some bad movies in my time, but I've never seen that before, and I haven't seen that before. I'm not personally into that kind of stuff. But, yeah, I might as well just start blaming human nature. I can't really use the whole slippery slope excuse. Once you realize how far we already are, not up, not down, just how far we generally are. This whole thing was 200,000 years in the making. You better pick your poison, buddy. So that's all I have to say about that. I really hope this works out. This isn't. I have a lot more stuff recorded with me and Sam, and there's also us doing the commentaries for the Amazing Lego Spider-Man series that you can watch. And it's not the kind of commentaries where I get all pretentious about things. I actually take the piss out of myself here and there. if I sound too smug, I hope not. That's definitely not who I am. But you can't help it in this business, can you? You have to believe in yourself just a little bit for you to even press the shutter button and take one photo. Oh yeah, and I'm working on Regeneration Part 1 and Part 2. I had to reshoot a scene because I wanted to show a really cool flashback scene. I was saving it for Part 2, but you know what? I'm going to do it for Part 1, and I think it's really interesting. And I really cannot wait for you guys to see. I keep wanting to say Revengeance for some reason. I am still working on the Back to the Future video. You guys really want to see it? I don't know. Sam thought it was funny. The concept, at least, he thought it was funny. Whatever. So that's it. If you like these podcasts, don't worry. I got like 2.5 hours more of this kind of stuff on our computers, and we'll be more than happy to upload it. Thank you for listening. I hope my voice is nice and soothing in these late night hours you're probably watching this. Alright. Bye-bye.